We all know the only guarantee in life is death and taxes. What if we could remove taxes?
Hello and welcome to the Relax. It's Retirement Podcast with your host, Josh Leonard, where we talk about transitioning into retirement with intent. I'm Wendy McConnell. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Wendy. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. How are you feeling?
Good. We're going to continue this trend of spring and taxes, The cheeriness of all the flowers blooming, we'll just tamp that down with a little bit of tax talk again today.
Yes, exactly.
And we have our almost regular guest now, Pete Belcastro, on again. So welcome, Pete.
Yes, thanks, Josh. Thanks. Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to see that you've got your recurring role going.
Yeah, absolutely, and definitely excited to get things kicked off in the spring here. And yeah, it's always bittersweet when you start to see flowers and then you realize, okay, it's tax time.
Yep. And I think one of the common things we get around taxes, especially for those nearing or just into retirement, is, should I be doing a Roth conversion, right? There's so many articles and I said to Pete this morning, it's like the only podcast that I haven't done a Roth episode yet. So here we go. Today we're going to cover 3 reasons or 3 times when doing a Roth conversion might make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when Roth first came on to the scene here, it was almost like it was treated like the best thing since sliced bread. So we just want to kind of dig into little benefits that we see and how it works into your overall financial plan and picture, and really how you can keep a lot more of your earnings in retirement here.
Yeah, I think that's important to really tax-free is good. But we don't want to get tax-free at such a cost that it causes us to have less money net of taxes overall. And sometimes we've heard of advisors being super aggressive in terms of Roth. So really it needs to be part of a total plan. But I would say, there's 3 sort of key scenarios or reasons that we feel are good reasons to look at a Roth conversion. I think the first one and easiest one is maximizing your tax bracket.
That's right. I mean, we know we're in a tiered tax system here. So, the more we make, the higher you're going to pay on those funds that are above those certain levels. Mm-hmm. What we see is a lot of times, people usually with their Social Security, you put a little pensions on there, even some RMDs, but we see most of people's income is falling in that 12% tax rate. Mm-hmm. Obviously we know 12%, that's not too much, but, pretty decent amount. So, why do we want to even pay, 12% taxes,
Yeah. Well, and I think that comes into play, like when we forecast out a person's RMDs in the future, if you're going to be forced into a higher tax bracket, that's assuming the tax rates stay the same.
Yeah.
Right? So if the tax laws, the Trump tax cuts sunset here in 2025, you are going to be paying more regardless. So, if we look at the tax bracket system from 12 to 22, it's really a pretty substantial jump.
Yeah.
So if we're going to be in that 22% tax bracket with RMDs, and now we're only in the 12%, let's fill up that tax bracket.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can do a calculation and, you see these amounts that people earn. And right now it's, it's around $94,000. So your income up to $94,000 it puts you in that 12% tax bracket. But you keep in mind, we have some deductions. We have some other things that can decrease our income. When we start looking at, we start digging into people's income, you can actually make up and over $120,000. Mm-hmm. And still be taxed within that 12% tax bracket, if you're paying attention and, you're calculating everything correctly.
Yeah. And I think that's it. If we can look at taking some of our qualified funds, so our IRA funds, and then paying in that 12% tax bracket, rather than defaulting to the 22% tax bracket later on, great, we're actually saving some money. By paying less taxes today. Now, for most folks, I guess we need to rewind here, Pete. A Roth conversion is when we take money from an IRA and move it to a Roth IRA. When we take money from an IRA and move it to a Roth IRA, we need to pay taxes on that money. Now, the ideal situation would be if we're falling in the 0% tax bracket and we make that move where that standard deduction for married filing joint folks that are over 65, that's almost $30,000 now. If you're only maybe taking some money out of savings your first couple years of retirement, we might be able to do a $10,000 or $20,000 Roth conversion without you actually paying taxes at all. So we took a fully taxable asset and made it a tax-free asset that then can continue to grow. So really for us, when we're looking at it with a client, we usually route it in the tax map or that tax scenario where we're looking to say, hey, how does your tax picture look now and in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can all anticipate that, we don't think we'll pay less taxes,
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like, problems are resolving themselves in a way that, the government's going to say, we got enough money and we're going to cut, we're not going to take as much taxes. So I think it's something that, is on our minds, especially this time of year. Hey, we're paying all this money and really, just to take another step back, we're talking about these funds that you never paid taxes on, you never touched, they were from an employer probably plan, they were deferral of your salary. So being able to take those assets and put them in your bank account and, maybe this leads us to the next piece. It's like we want as much as that go into the bank account as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, in a well-coordinated retirement plan, pivoting to our second point here, this other scenario when it makes sense to have some Roth funds is just for that emergency or unexpected expenses, right? We talk a lot about that cash bucket, our emergency fund. Well, what if it's more than that 3 to 6 months worth of income, right? Or what if you get a great opportunity like, your dream house in Florida or something goes up for sale and the market happens to be down, right? So it's a great time to jump on that property. But if you pull all that money out of your IRA, Uncle Sam's going to be taking like a quarter of it or maybe even 40%, right?
Yeah, that's a big chunk to miss.
Yeah. So we want to be able to balance. So I think the Roth gives us some flexibility there as well.
That's it. Having a few different areas to take funds out of. So obviously we know we have that income bucket. We know you're going to pay ordinary income taxes on those, any funds that come out of that. But we got that bank account and, sometimes we encourage you if it's outside of your emergency fund to look at investing in those, but those are things that you pay tax on every year. Maybe this year you probably found out that maybe some of those funds that you never even thought about because they weren't earning any interest, now you got to pay taxes on those.
Yeah.
You're getting 1099s for those things. So those things that you're just paying taxes throughout that year. So it's nice to have something that you already pay taxes on. You don't have to worry about it. Because those things come up that are negative that, oh gosh, this is going to be, this roof was, I need to replace my roof at the same time the water heater went and, I got a sewer problem, so those type of things that really doesn't make sense to keep the money in cash in an emergency type of account, but what we're talking about is, maybe you're already up when your back's against the wall and you're already almost in the 22% tax bracket, so you have, let's just say you're taking $10,000 out. I mean, that 10,000 turns into like, $7,800 pretty quick at 22%. Yeah. So that's a big amount to miss there, especially if you're considering, hey, I got to put a $10,000 roof on here and now I got to take out over $13,000.
Yeah, I think that's it. Recently with inflation, a lot of folks too are kind of shocked when they get quotes. Maybe they were planning on redoing the kitchen. We had set aside and it was in their plan that we were going to spend blank amount and now it costs $5,000 more, right?
Yeah.
So great. Where are we going to do that? Well, if we take the money out, it's going to bump us up a tax bracket. I think the other pitfall in needing to withdraw large sums is Medicare. I mean, you are hitting those IRMA limits where you are then paying more for Medicare, Part B and Part D 2 years later. So it's not this year, but you're going to pay more. And, that's technically a health expense, but to me, that's a tax, right?
Yeah.
It's a tax consequence. So
Absolutely.
we want to be careful of that. And I think having this bucket of tax-free money in your tax diversification gives you flexibility, right? No matter how well we plan, right? Something always comes up. Maybe it's a family emergency and you need to lend a family member some money or whatever the situation might be, right?
Yeah, and what you said there, I mean, that's really, tax diversification. But if you haven't talked about diversification with somebody around financial planning, you're missing a piece, because we talk about diversification not only on the taxes, but how we invest, what we invest in, and so these are big pieces of planning. And so you can, just by being aware and having that diversification, you can stretch your retirement savings out. You can really incorporate that into your plan and have a nice path here to maybe do a few things, or like you said, not have to tie, have money set aside that maybe isn't going to be working as hard for you because you want this beach property, or maybe an opportunity happens that you can go on vacation for, across the seas for a month or something like that that you couldn't miss, and instead of that costing you a whole bunch, or you maybe not being able to do it, you have that available to you.
Yep.
But I think that's it's part of it's part of planning, and once those things come, it's too late to be prepared.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other way to think about it, kind of marrying point one or maximizing your tax bracket with the second one, is, maybe you have a low income year, right? Maybe you're laid off from your job, you're a couple years out from retirement, and you say, I'm just not working the rest of this year. So it's a lower income year. You could look at a Roth conversion to kind of bump up your taxable income to that more normal level, again, in a logical fashion. And then in a year, when your income's the same, but your expenses just happen to go wild for whatever reason, you have that flexibility to control on it. So really, that, sort of emergency tax-free fund just kind of acts as another lever we have in retirement.
Yeah. And I think we could all use, whenever you get to retirement, you start making that transition from accumulation to distribution, having more options makes it a lot more comfortable. I mean, you're already dealing with a lot of changes, and having a place or a way to access, some funds that isn't going to, bump you into another tax bracket, or you're going to have to take out, maybe 10% more than what you were expecting or anticipating with your plan there. That can be really powerful.
Yeah. Certainly so. I think, we can never plan for all the emergencies that come up. So having a little kitty of tax-free money is certainly okay.
That's it.
I think we can use that to transition to the third point, which, as a legacy asset, it's kind of a good one to inherit.
Yeah. It's a pretty nice asset. Whenever we start looking at, where those funds are traditionally taken from, it's our ordinary income. So whenever you do inherit a asset that is qualified, or it has been contributing to with pre-tax money, and maybe it's from your parents or another relative, whenever you take those funds out, it's your ordinary income. So it's the same, as if you made it yourself there. So that can be, that can be a lot to, that can be a lot to pay for. And right now, the current rules are you have to withdraw those funds within a certain tax period, time period. So.
Yeah, you have to withdraw it in 10 years. So if you think what we've seen many times through clients is they're inheriting assets from their parents at their top earning years.
Yeah.
So if let's say your parents pass away and you're 50 and you're sort of at the top of your career, you're making the most money you've ever made, and now you have to distribute this asset, which more money's always good, right? We'll inherit money. That's okay. But it's not the most efficient way. You're giving more to Uncle Sam than is necessary. Maybe for mom and dad, it would have made sense in hindsight to go and do some small Roth conversions to have some more tax diversification. With the Roth IRA too, once you inherit those funds, you could spend that money, right? So, if maybe it's paying off a second home that mom and dad had, or, many, many uses. There's a lot less friction than if you're inheriting an IRA.
Absolutely.
More advanced planning. So if you have a really high balance in your IRA account and it doesn't look like you're going to use it during your lifetime, you can start to factor in your kids' tax brackets and then build a plan around that, right? So if your kids are in, the 22% tax bracket, we need to be careful and be mindful that, hey, you know what? Even though you're in the 12, let's bump it up a little bit. Let's try to make that effective tax rate for the family lower.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, all part of a comprehensive plan. And, I think that, whenever we first started, this podcast, saying that we can, there's guarantees in life, really there's only two. We know death and taxes. And we're not saying that, it's, you can get away from these things, but we like to eliminate it and pay as little as possible if we can.
Yeah, certainly so. Yeah, if we can reduce taxes, that will be ideal. We got to pay them at some point, though. We can't completely eliminate them unless you give all your money away. And, there's certain ways, but no one wants to do that. So
so I definitely, you have a couple options whenever you look at these retirement savings. When we talk through it with, clients, oftentimes it's a good mix. There's never one size fits all. It's never just traditional IRA or Roth IRA. It has to be done, through proper planning because, even if, it sounds great, all right, this is going to go tax deferred. If you pay taxes on money and let's just say that you are in a higher earning tax year and you are paying 22%, it's really tough to make up 22%. So, when you're in retirement, it's a little bit easier. Things are a little bit more black and white as far as what your tax bracket is for that particular year. Whenever we talk about transitioning into, a secure retirement, when you're working up into that, it takes a little bit more due diligence to make sure that you are taking advantage of your tax brackets and not, kind of shooting yourself in the foot by paying those ordinary income taxes on it.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think taxes become a very complicated issue in retirement. It's sort of a new game, right?
Yep.
When you're working, sometimes it's, let's throw some money in an IRA to reduce taxes for the year. But we also need to keep that long term in mind as well. We need to make sure that we're not creating a snowballing tax problem in the future. So, that's it. I think third point going back there, the legacy asset of inheriting a Roth IRA. If you spend all your assets and you never need to tap into that sort of emergency tax-free bucket, your kids will be grateful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The best asset to inherit.
Yeah, certainly so. I think Roth IRAs get a lot of press and there's a lot of rules around Roth IRAs. But the key feature there is you pay tax on the money going in, whether it's through a conversion or contribution. That money grows tax-free, and as long as you follow the rules, you can distribute it tax-free as well. So, certainly a great asset. By no means is that a reason to put every dollar into a Roth.
Yeah.
Proper tax planning should help you dictate how much to get into each bucket there, so to speak.
Absolutely. That was a lot there for you, Wendy. What do you think?
Well, I was full gung-ho on getting all the Roth I could until I talked to Pete here, and he's like, wait. You don't want to do that, because then you're missing out on the growth of the money. Now, I'm not going to say it as eloquently as you do, Pete, but the growth of the money that you didn't have to pay taxes on while it's in a traditional 401k.
That's right. That is one, we do see a lot of positives, but there is, you want to be aware that, you're pretty much, you're starting down 22% if you are in that tax bracket to put it into a Roth. So, there's definitely some planning that goes into effect because, sometimes it does make sense to, hey, that's fine. I got 2 years away from retirement. So there are times where it does make sense, but yeah, it is it does start to sound like it's too good to be true. Why wouldn't I use it for 100% of my funds?
Yeah, and I think I guess listeners, what Wendy's alluding to is like if you're in the 22% tax bracket, you put it away in an IRA, you're not paying taxes. You're not losing 22 cents on the dollar. If you put it into the Roth IRA, this is during your working years, you're starting out at 78 cents rather than $1. So to compound, you have to offset that over time. So there is a tax balance there, right? It isn't this magical asset that you never pay taxes on and you get everything, perfect, right? You need to balance things out there.
That's exactly what I meant. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Josh.
That's yep. But, it is good. Again, we want to encourage that tax diversification, but not a silver bullet.
Right. So you should have maybe some in a Roth and some in a traditional. Is that really probably what the advice would be?
Absolutely. Yep. And always depends on your situation, right? These are not blanket recommendations that you should have exactly 5.4% in a Roth IRA. And, it depends on your situation and your long-term goals too. Maybe one of your goals is to retire and buy an RV in cash, not finance it, and drive across the country. Well, great. You might want some more tax-free funds, so maybe it makes sense to start building that up during your working years leading up to retirement.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yep. Pete, any departing thoughts on Roth IRAs for you?
I just, it's a great conversation starter. I think if you don't, if you don't have one of these, retirement, products that are at our disposal here, that's definitely something that I would bring up with a professional. That if you heard something that you don't have, being properly diversified, just not how you allocate your funds, but the type of products that you have your funds in. That's a missed conversation, and you can. And a missed opportunity that we can see a great benefit for.
Yep, absolutely. And that's it. Make sure you're maximizing the tax brackets, right? Especially if you're in a 0% tax bracket year. Let's do something there. Let's fill up that 0% tax bracket. Let's maximize that. It's always good to have another emergency backup for unexpected expenses, especially if it's a tax-free one. And then, your kids will love you if you give them tax-free money. So,
absolutely.
Absolutely. So, Josh, I know that it's unlikely that anybody would have questions about taxes and how to, maximize the.
You're right, Wendy. People never have questions about taxes.
Right. So, but just in case somebody does, how can people get in touch with you?
Yep. They can schedule a 15-minute phone call with us. In the show notes, there'll be a link to schedule a 15-minute phone call with us. We're happy to run a tax analysis for you and discuss any tax questions you have there. That being said, we're not CPAs. We're talking about it from the financial planning perspective. We're not going to file your taxes for you or anything like that, but we'll help guide you to be efficient with your taxes. You're also welcome to give our office a call at 412-998-PLAN, and make sure to check us out online at leonardadvisorygroup.com. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do that so you're notified of our next show release. And same thing with YouTube. If you're watching the video format on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you're notified when we upload a new video.